Hi, this is Sam from the University of Waterloo Arts faculty. Today I'll be speaking with Victoria, University of Waterloo Arts Alumni. Would you mind telling me a bit about yourself and your connection to the Faculty of Arts?
Yeah, for sure. So I am a Waterloo grad I think I graduated in 2015 from Arts and Business Co-op, and I majored in speech communication. So my connection to the Waterloo community and the Waterloo Arts community specifically started when I was in my third or fourth year. I had just started a magazine called Passionate, and it was it was Waterloo students, but it was people from all over my network who contributed to this magazine, and they talked about what they're passionate about, or they took photos, or they did illustrations, or they were models. It was kind of just about people who were passionate about different things coming together and creating this content. And so that caught the eye of the Faculty of Arts. And I was interviewed, and there was a video, and I was put in the arts recruitment brochures. So that's where it kind of all started. And from there, I just continued to stay connected to Amy Meredith, who was the person who brought me on for the project. And then I did part-time work with the recruitment team. I volunteered with the Ontario University's Fair for several years, even after I graduated. So I've tried to stay pretty connected to the arts community even after graduation as an alumni. And I'm excited to be back here after a couple of years of not being as connected as I'd like to be.
Yeah, that magazine sounds super cool. So how did that kind of come to be? Like, where did that come from, the inspiration for that?
So I was in my third co-op term. I was having a hard time finding a co-op job that semester, and I found a organization called Women of Influence who was hiring an intern, and it was unpaid, and it was sort of meant to be a temporary thing because it wasn't necessarily qualified for my co-op credit for that term. So while I was looking for a role that would qualify as my co-op credit, that did have the salary that is required, I did this internship for about a month. And one of the things that they had, aside from really cool events with really great influential women, was a magazine called Women of Influence. And I sat beside the editor-in-chief of the magazine, and I was like, whoa, this has always been a dream of mine to be a part of this. And the more I learned, the more I was like, I wonder if I can do something similar. And this was still early days of not early days of blogging, but it wasn't as popular. There was definitely some really established bloggers out there, but it wasn't as popular as the Instagram community of bloggers is today. So it was still pretty fresh when I started creating content for Passionate, and I just knew I had this amazingly creative network of people who would love to participate. And I mean, the people who volunteered to give their time to write content for free, to take photos for free, was incredible. And it was a really good starting point for people who wanted to build their portfolio. And I loved bringing all those people together. So that's sort of how it came to be. It kind of died down once I graduated, and it's something that I sometimes think about bringing back. I think it's still really relevant for people, especially with the last year or so. People have really struggled to find what they're passionate about, but it was a really great experience, and I was fully supported by the Waterloo community at the time.
Yeah, that totally sounds like it would still be relevant. I mean, that sounds like something I would be interested in. I know my friends and I we're in global business and digital arts, the program.
Mm-hmm.
And we sometimes talk about okay, but what's our passion? There's things we really
Mm-hmm.
like to do. There's things that they're okay, but it takes a long time to figure that out. And it sounds
For
like that
sure.
was a really great idea to kind of get people talking about that and get involved. That's super
Yeah, I think
cool.
so.
So what made you choose Waterloo Arts, and how did you know it was the right fit for you?
So the main thing with Waterloo Arts was the co-op option for me. I applied to a few other places, but nowhere really had that co-op option for somebody who was interested in arts and humanities, the same way that Waterloo did. So that's what sort of led me to arts and business. I actually initially applied with the intention of majoring in fine arts, and I realized soon, once I started, that wasn't really for me. So in my second semester of first year, I started taking speech communication courses and realized that was a really good fit for me. I like the small class size. I'm still connected to so many of the people that I met in that program. If it weren't actually for that program, I may never have met my fiance. So it felt like the right fit for me. How did I know it was the right fit? I think, again, yeah, small class sizes, community of people. I got involved in the Speech Comm Society pretty early on. That eventually helped me get one of my co-op jobs later on. So it just felt like a tight-knit community within a larger campus, and it felt really special.
Yeah, that's really nice having the small classes. I know in my first year, we had to take them arts first courses, and I
Mhm.
really like that because you could put your hand up and talk and actually be heard, as opposed to like some classes when it's just like hundreds of people and you kind
Mhm.
of just sit there and like watch. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who's thinking about arts at Waterloo? I know you mentioned really liking the co-op aspect, which a lot of alumni
Mhm.
have mentioned as well.
I think that with arts, there's so many opportunities to get involved. And I think that's true for in general with Waterloo. And it's something that I would recommend people do, whether it's with the arts community, becoming an arts ambassador, or looking for on campus part-time employment opportunities like I did with the Waterloo arts team. I think that is what was the most valuable thing to me. I think my program and my courses were certainly valuable, but the connections I made were invaluable. It's where how I got to where I am today for sure. And the coursework is and the readings and all that stuff is just like sort of the baseline. And then once you start getting involved, that's how you really feel fulfilled in your time at Waterloo. So I think that is what I would recommend to anybody thinking about it. It's easy to get involved. It's super fulfilling and people are super welcoming. So yeah.
As a student myself, that took me a while to kind of really,
Mm-hmm.
it took a while to sink in that, okay, I need to actually get involved to like make this university experience great and make connections.
Mm-hmm.
Because in reality, that's the most important thing is networking and meeting new people because,
Yeah.
that's how you get different opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is your current job position as of right now?
Yeah. So right now I've been at a advertising agency called Klick Health for about 2 years. Um, we do mostly pharmaceutical and life science advertising and marketing. And then I work on the sales/growth team. And I am a content specialist, which basically means I help write proposals and create pitches for new business opportunities. It's very different than anything that I've done before, but I love the people I work with. They are excellent. I have a great manager who is really the reason that I was enticed to come over to this organization, was because I really enjoyed the interview process with her and felt like she was somebody that I could see myself being mentored by and coached by. So that's sort of how I landed where I am today.
I found that so far in my program, the things that I've never done before have ended up being some things that I really like doing. So that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
That's really cool.
So you mentioned you were admitted to the co-op program.
Yep.
Was it really tough to get that first job during co-op or through your own job hunting, or how did you find that process?
I wouldn't say that it was necessarily super tough, but I had the wrong mindset. I went into it thinking that I had to be in the first round. Like it was like my first co-op term. I had some experience. I was like, I'm gonna have a job by the end of the first round. I have to. And some of my friends got jobs at the end of the first round, and I felt kind of down when I didn't get a job in the first round. Um, but I got it in the second round, and I ended up getting a really awesome opportunity. I worked on campus with retail services. I'm not sure if that's what they're still called, but basically the people who run the Waterloo store, the bookstore, and that kind of thing. And I actually liked it so much that I worked part-time on my next school semester. And then I worked again as a co-op student after that. So I just went into it with the wrong mindset that I wasn't good enough because I didn't make the first round. And that's not true at all. There's so many people out there. And I just didn't find the right opportunities and the right things to apply for. And then I ended up with something that was really promising, something I really enjoyed, and something that gave me a lot of really interesting skills that really laid the groundwork for my future co-op terms as well.
So in my program, we just have the internship. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was my first time using Waterloo Works, first time like trying to get a co-op placement. And I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone, or at least most people, go in being really confident, like, oh yeah, like there's so many
Yeah.
jobs, like my resume is so good. I worked so hard on it. But like,
Mm-hmm.
everyone worked hard on their resume and you're gonna get no's. It's just normal. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it'll be good to hear from you that like you had that same experience because I think sometimes students have the idea that like, if you don't get a job in the first round, like something's wrong or you're
Hmm.
not going to get a job
Hmm.
at all, but that's not the case. So, could you tell everyone a bit about your career path? I know you kind of touched on this, but
Yeah.
how your program kind of helped you with that?
Yeah. So my first job out of university, they were super interested in Passionate. I had given the first interviewer a copy of one of the magazines, and he's like, "So tell me about this. This is really cool. How'd you like how'd this start?" Basically similar questions to what you were asking me. And so I feel like that kind of helped make me stand out. And I think that the support of the Waterloo community to create something like that was really helpful. I actually took Bet 300. It was basically an introduction to entrepreneurship, and you needed to have some sort of startup businessy thing to be a part of that course. So that was really a really cool opportunity for me too, to explore what I was working on, and continue to help push that through. So I think like I said, I started that project in third year, and I, carried it out until after I graduated, and I was at Waterloo for about 5 years. So, it was a 2 to 3 year project. And I think without the support of the Waterloo community, I probably never would have continued it. Like it could have just ended after a couple issues. And I think I ended up doing almost 20 issues of the magazine. So, and that really helped me stand out after. So that got me into my first job. And then I wasn't there that long. It wasn't really what I wanted. I moved into it's called DX3. It was like a marketing and advertising conference. And I worked there for about a year and a half doing speaker management. So when we had speakers for the conference, they would come in and I would greet them, and I'd make sure that their bios were in the pamphlets, and I'd help maintain the website, and I would do a little bit of graphic design, and I designed the pamphlets. Like it was one of those things where you're kind of like a jack of all trades and try a lot of different things, which was really helpful for me because it gave me a sense of things that I would like to do and not like to do. After that, I actually stopped working in a corporate, or like I worked for myself basically. I was no longer doing Passionate, but I was still blogging on my own, and I was doing pretty well, like getting some sponsorships and partnerships. But the main thing that I was actually focused on was hosting workshops. I am a crafty person. I like make my own earrings. And so I was teaching people how to make macrame plant hangers and concrete planters and a few other different things. And that was going really well for me at the time. So I left the job at DX3 and started doing my own thing for a couple months until what I thought was going to be a dream job sort of landed in my lap. I had been interviewing for two jobs at the same time, both sort of in this like DIY craft writing world. So I really wanted one of them. I went through several rounds of interviews and didn't get the job, which was really hard. But then immediately after that, I was basically in the last round of interviews at a company called Dipley. They're sort of like BuzzFeed, but Canadian based. And I got a job writing about DIYs, which was really cool. It was very different from the roles I'd done before because it was basically all writing. Like that's basically all I did. And eventually it sort of became more than just writing, and I started doing things like taking photos and being a part of videos, doing a little bit of analysis on the statistics and how well things were performing. They went through some growing pains, had a couple layoffs, realized it wasn't going to be for me long term. So I left and went to a different company that I thought was going to be the dream job. And it also had to do with like crafts and DIY because I was working on the social media accounts for Home Depot at an agency. And that was my first time ever working for an agency. So again, also a very different type of role, working for a client, not working like within the same organization. That went really well for a while. But Klick came along, and I had a recruiter reach out to me and say, you know what, we really are interested in your skill set. We want to have a conversation with you and see what we can find here. So I had my phone interview. I met with my boss, my now boss, who I just adored, thought she would be a great mentor, like I said before. And I made the hard decision to leave what I thought was going to be my dream job for something just so different from what I had been doing. And it's been 2 years, and I'm really happy. I really like Klick. Klick is a great place to learn and grow. Like yesterday, I sat through a hour workshop about it was called The Ghosts of Madmen, and it dug deep into diversity and inclusion in the advertising industry, both from a historical perspective of how people were presented in ads back in the day, and now even till today, as well as the recruitment process and the people who are at the executive level and what we can do better to have more diverse and inclusive executive leaders. So they're always providing stuff like that, which was really interesting to me. And so I feel like I found a really good place now. And I think everything that had happened in my career up until now, since I graduated, which was about 6 years ago, has helped get me to the point now. And the next step in my career path, I think, is hopefully to start doing some more management. I'm really excited to hopefully hire a Waterloo co-op student or intern next summer. So that's something that's sort of on my radar as well, and my boss is on board. So that's sort of what's next for me too, I think.
All of that sounds so creative and interesting. It sounds like you've kind of touched on so many different areas, and I'm sure you've gained a ton of skills from that.
It definitely has not been linear at all, but I think that's normal too.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. I personally really like having variety. I'd like to kind of get around and explore different interests as well. So that's great you've had the chance to do that.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And I love your earrings, by the way, too. They're super
Thank
cool.
you.
I noticed them right away.
Thank you.
So who were some important connections you made at Waterloo that helped in your career path and helped you be who you are today?
For sure. So one of the first connections I made that kind of helped me with my final co-op terms was by joining the Speech Comm Society. I became friends with one of the co-presidents at the time, who ended up hiring me to work for her once she had graduated, and I was a co-op student at a company called RL Solutions. And it was kind of like a coveted job there because they had they had a great co-op program. They hired from in all sorts of departments, but they also just had a lot of really cool perks and benefits that were extended to co-op students as well as full-time students. So that was a really cool opportunity for me. And it was also in the healthcare space. So it's kind of funny how it's now come like almost full circle that I'm now back in the healthcare life sciences place after, many years away from it. So that was a great connection. And like I said, I wouldn't have ever had that opportunity if I hadn't joined the Speech Comm Society. So I think that's another good proof point of why people should definitely get involved. Amy Meredith, who works with the marketing and recruitment for Waterloo Arts specifically, was again a really good connection for me. She's the one who brought me on for the arts brochure. I ended up working with her and Natran, who also worked in the arts admissions. I don't remember all the titles of the business units and stuff, but anyway, I worked with them for the year or so after I'd already finished all my co-ops. I was working part-time with them throughout my last year of Waterloo, and I did some of the coolest projects. I made these posters that were sent out to admitted art students the summer before they started at Waterloo, and it was one of the coolest projects I've ever done. I think about it all the time. But for one of the posters, I built the arts quad out of paper and I photographed it, and that became the poster. And it was just, I had the coolest opportunities to just be creative and do the coolest things. And I'm forever grateful for those moments, because they stick out so well in my memory of my time and in my career, really. And so I, again, stayed in touch for a while after that. I would do the Ontario Universities Fair. Sometimes I would come in and speak. And I did that for a couple of years after I graduated, and it kind of died off a little bit in the last like 2 to 3-ish years. And so I just reached out to Amy recently and was like, let's have a virtual coffee, because I'd love to, get back in touch and stay connected to the Waterloo community. And I just feel this sense of connection to the community, and I want to be a part of it. And I'm excited again to hire a co-op student from the same sort of programs that I was a part of, because I think it was just so valuable. So I'm really happy to still be involved today.
Yeah, that's so nice. And I actually do think I saw the art squad out of paper. So I was looking through the Flickr albums for Instagram posts and stuff. And I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I wonder who did that. So that's cool to know. Put a face to the name, or put a face to the photo, I guess.
I also that same year made so many buttons. I don't know if you've seen there's like a button maker. I guess you probably haven't really been in the office at all. But we had a button maker, and I designed these buttons. It was such a good time.
That
such
sounds
a good
so
experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then there's just a couple questions left. So once you did graduate, what advantages did you feel that the Waterloo experience gave you and made you stand out amongst competitors?
I think the co-op experience definitely helped. I had a job lined up before I graduated, so that was a goal of mine. I really wanted to be able to just, have a little break. I went to Cuba, come back, and start working. And so I think having co-op experience really helped there. I think also having my like magazine experience also made me stand out, and that's one of the reasons that I did get hired to that role. And I think again, just staying connected, even if you don't have a portfolio in the traditional sense of like, oh, I have all these visuals or writing things to show. I think you can find a lot of really cool things that you do in your day to day that can stand out. Like one of my friends got involved at in UW's cabaret club, and just putting that on his resume made him stand out. The person who was interviewing was like, "That's so cool. Tell me more about your time there." So I think you just need to think about what makes you special and what makes you different, and you can find something that you might not think is special or different, but it actually is. And an employer might actually really relate to what you're putting down on your resume or what you want to share with them. So I think there's lots of ways to stand out. It can be something as simple as being in a club that your interviewer thinks is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll finish up quickly here because I know you have
Mhm.
somewhere to be. What is your favorite memory from the University of Waterloo?
Oh, this is so hard. I have so many great memories of Waterloo. I was actually just chatting with one of my coworkers. I miss being in the city a lot. I live in Toronto now, which I love, but Waterloo is just like such a special place for me. I think one of my favorite things is honestly building that arts quad, like just being able to have that opportunity to do something so weird and wild. So at my co-op job that I'd done this semester before, they had done something similar. They'd like built a amusement park out of paper, and then you took photos of it and like used it on a website and used it in a sales brochure. And I was like, so my own co-op did this. I think it'd be really fun. And it took me a long time. I was working like 10 hours a week too. So it wasn't, and I had other things to do. So it wasn't an easy project, and it wasn't a short project, but everyone was just so on board with me doing it. I took over an entire like room of the office, and it was just such a great memory for me because it really was a special way to like kind of even like it was my last semester at Waterloo. I was like encapsulating my time with Waterloo Arts in this like forever. I still have the poster, like this forever piece of art that was going to be sent out to a lot of different people. So I think that's one of the most special things, and it's one of the reasons why I continue to want to stay in touch with Amy, because she gave me the opportunity to do something really cool like that. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. That sounds like it was a really cool experience. I don't want to take up more of your time. I see it's 10:30 now,
It's
but
okay.
thank you so much for chatting with me today. It was really great to get to know about you and your whole experience with Waterloo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'll let you go and have a good one.
Awesome. Have a good one. Bye.